Hello and welcome to episode 90 of The Thing About Golf, Golf Australia magazine's ongoing exploration of the reasons people get hooked on this crazy game. My name's Rod Murray, though it's not me you'll be hearing from this episode, as my colleague John Huggan is once again at the microphone, this time for a chat with one of the most influential administrators of the last 40 years. For golfers whose interest in the game peaked between 2000 and 2015, Peter Dawson's voice will be among the most familiar in the game. As Secretary of the Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St Andrews and later Chief Executive of the R&A, it was Dawson's job to announce the Champion Golfer of the Year at each year's Open. That gave him a front row seat to everything from all four of Tiger Woods' victories to Zach Johnson's playoff triumph at the Old Course just 8 years ago. But the Secretary's job is so much more than handling the prize giving at the Open. In fact, in many ways, that is the least important task. As one of two bodies governing the game worldwide, there's an unthinkable amount of issues to deal with, from equipment regulation and the rules of the game to global initiatives to grow the game. Dawson and Huggan know each other well, and they have a friendly though professional relationship. There's a lot that they don't agree on, though a lot that they do. And that makes for a fascinating conversation, which we'll get to now.
Okay, welcome to the latest edition of the Thing About Golf podcast. My guest this time round is, I think he might be the master of the acronym. I'm not sure how to introduce you, Peter, as the former Chief Executive of the R&A, the Managing Director of OCH, the Old Course Hotel, or the Chairman of OWGR, the official World Golf Ranking. But anyway, let's start with the normal question, or the usual question is, Peter Dawson, what was the thing about golf for you?
Well, before we go on, I'll give you 2 out of 3 for the introduction there,
right.
because I'm no longer managing director of the Old Course Hotel.
I was going to say
but I am still on the board, but and a great place it is to be involved in. Gosh, what does golf mean to me? Lots of things, I think. I don't have a one-word answer to that. It's, I think it's the greatest game ever invented. What do you get? You get companionship, you get sportsmanlike behaviour, integrity, health benefits, I suppose. But I think the real thing is it's just a great game. Just a great game that I still enjoy 63 years after having started it.
Yeah.
And,
well, you know, not to blow too much smoke up your backside, but you were pretty good at it as well. I mean, you pretty low handicap for a long time. Well,
I was okay. I was a good boy golfer and won a few things then, and then played university and county golf. I did think about turning pro when I was a teenager, but I'm delighted I didn't.
Dismissed that idea.
I would certainly have starved. And I think I'm just coming round to accepting I'm not going to win the Open after all. I think I've put that one out of my mind.
Did you ever try and qualify?
I never did. Never did, no. And so I played county golf, and I was a decent player, but not an exceptional one.
Now, our mutual friend Peter McAvoy, who's been on this podcast, he speaks very highly of your game tee to green. And I have to say, not so highly of your game once you were on the greens. Is that still the case?
Well, that was certainly true for a lot of my golfing time. I think my long game was pretty good quality, but my putting wasn't. But I have to say, later in life, I think it's turned around a bit. The putting's better and the long game's worse. And I can't answer why that is, but I think I put more putts in the hole now than I did when I was younger. But I don't hit as many greens. That's
Do you
for
still
sure.
putt normally? Or I can say normally, you know. Or have you gone to long putters, or have you ever been a yipper?
I've definitely been a yipper.
Right.
And I've changed to left below right grips, right. And I've never persevered with a long putter. I tried it for one round once.
But would that have been kind of uncool for the chief executive of the R&A to be out there with those sort of things? Did that cross your mind?
Well, I think it probably did, but also I was absolutely useless with it. So the two things combined pretty well. But I'm totally conventional now with the putter. In fact, I'm putting with an old George Nicol gem blade putter and enjoying that.
Is that a golden goose? Is it one of those? Or?
No. It was a blade. Yeah.
That's very unusual these days.
It is, and I'm enjoying that. Of course, it won't last. I'll have to try something else when the magic wears off.
Yeah. Now, I do have a question for you when you touched on your county standard play, but I'm going to go up a level to the national level. Now, you and I have talked about this before. You're the only Scotsman I know who's ever played in the English amateur. You explain yourself.
Well, I don't know about that, whether I'm the only Scotsman. I mean, Peter McAvoy is as Scots as I am, I think.
But he was born in England.
I think I did play in the English amateur once, despite being Scots. When I was a schoolboy, I was playing my golf in Essex. It was way back in the 60s. And I don't suppose I really knew what the rules were, come to think of it. But yes, I think guilty as charged probably, but ignorant of the rules at the time. But I didn't affect the outcome of the championship.
No, but it's a pretty heinous crime. Come on, for any Scotsman.
I think the statute of limitations may have run out on that one.
Okay, yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you about on that kind of humorous level is you and I talked ages ago about the now defunct youth championship. Last one was won by Freddie Jakobsen of Sweden, who went on to some success as a pro. And you told me that your life's work was to get the trophy back from the bugger. He'd never returned it.
Yes, well, gosh.
Did he ever get it?
You've reminded me about something there that I don't think was ever resolved. We'll have to see what we can do. The youth championship. How long ago is it that was dropped?
95,
can you remember? Something like that.
Yeah.
I think I played in it once at Dalmahoy.
Right.
But again, it was pouring with rain. I can't remember who won that one. But it might have been Peter Benker. And, it was a great event. But I guess, the younger people got good at golf and all of that. And by the time the youth thing was in vogue, they'd turned pro and so on. And I guess the championship died a natural death. Shame, really.
Yeah. I mean, well, you touched on it again, how good you were. I mean, what sort of level did you reach? I mean, you say county standard. I mean, there's different. I've played county golf, and there was guys that were just county standard and guys that you were wondering why they never played for their country, really. Because there's a lot of politics involved in that level of the game. But, so where would you put yourself, do you think?
Well, I think I was probably, in the upper half of a county team, right, for sure.
You weren't in McAvoy's class, though, were you?
Well, I'll tell you a story about him. Back in the early 70s, I'm playing in the Warwickshire Open at Nuneaton.
Right.
And no amateur has ever won this event. And I'm in the clubhouse, 1-4-2. And I'm winning, amazingly. Now, 1-4-2 was the sort of score that won 36 holes events in those days, but not anymore. And there's one group to come in, and there's a schoolboy playing in it, and he has a 40-footer to tie. And this putt hit the back of the hole, leapt about 3 inches in the air and he tied. And it was Peter McAvoy as a sixth form schoolboy. And there was a 18-hole playoff some weeks later, and we'll disregard that as history. And he went past me that day.
Yes, yeah.
And he and I were both members at Copt Heath for a lot of years. Yes. And the club championship board, it's a bit of a shrine to McAvoy going up the stairs in Copt Heath that says,
never been,
champion, Peter McAvoy, Peter McAvoy, Peter McAvoy, Peter McAvoy. Peter Dawson, Peter McAvoy, Peter McAvoy, Peter McAvoy. And he's very sore still.
Was he ill? Or what?
Well, he was playing with me that day as well. And stranger than fiction, I managed to win it once, I think.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Well, nobody's unbeatable. Even at especially, you always get guys at everybody's home club that are really good at that club, but didn't travel too well.
Yeah, that's true. And that is certainly true. You see that a lot in St Andrews, actually. A lot of good players out here on the links don't seem to do terribly well, or as well as you think they're going to elsewhere. I don't know why that is.
Well, I mean, I grew up at Dunbar, which is similar, obviously had good links. And there was a lot of good players there that you wouldn't fancy playing at Dunbar, but you'd quite happily play them somewhere else.
Yeah. I don't know if it's to do with driving, because you're almost always in play. Whereas on an inland tree line course, that's not the case. And if you're faced with one of those, it's a different prospect. But it's something I've wondered about for years, but we'll never know the answer.
Yeah. I mean, where do you play your golf now then?
Oh, mostly on the links here at St Andrews. Right. Over 90% of my golf's out here.
Yeah. I tell you what is noticeable is that you've stayed. after your time at the R&A, and Michael Banalek did the same when he was finished. He still lives in the area.
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Well,
what's the attraction?
Michael and I both did 16 years in the R&A job. In fact, each of my three predecessors did 16 years for no connected reason. Right. Brigadier Brickman, Keith Mackenzie, Michael Banalek, and I. And, well, it's a great place to live.
Absolutely, but none of you were from here, if you like.
No, true. I mean, I'm originally from Aberdeen, and but I've lived half my life in England now and half in Scotland. And, well, where else would you want to go?
Well, I'm
over 16 years here, you make a lot of friends, and you put down quite a lot of roots. My children were grown up before I started the R&A job, so they never lived here with us. They love to visit, and they're both down the south.
So are you looking forward to England being independent, or is that something?
I don't think we better go there. That's too dangerous territory.
Yeah. Obviously, you'll be best known to the people who are listening to this podcast as from your time at the R&A. Mm-hmm. We can look back at that a bit. What were the biggest challenges of your time there? Both personally and, in the bigger picture? Yeah,
I think they were more opportunities than challenges. Initially, it kind of went in phases. There was always so much going on that it's actually quite hard to remember now to cover everything. We did a lot of very useful and important commercial work early on and raised the income levels of the R&A very substantially. And that has actually gone on since I retired extremely well too.
So that was a big part of why you got the job, I think. I mean, you were very successful in business, and that's really what the R&A needed at the time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think they were looking for someone who knew a bit about golf and a bit about business. I was a member of the R&A at the time, and I was on the Rules of Golf Committee when Michael Banalek's retirement came along. And no one more surprised than me to get it. I remember we were living in Northumberland at the time of the application, and we were very happy there. My wife was a bit apprehensive about a move, and my son said to her, "Oh, don't worry, let him apply, he'll never get it." And then I get to the last dozen. "Don't worry, Mum, he'll never get it." Yeah. Last 6, she said, "This isn't going to plan, James." Right. "Oh, don't worry, he'll never get it." And as soon as I got it, he wanted to know if the job was hereditary.
Right.
So
there you go.
I had to straighten him out on that.
Yeah.
But, so it was commercial work early on. Always the importance of the championships, of course, growing the Open, making sure it went smoothly, and all the amateur events. The Rules of Golf work just went on with its own momentum, really, and extremely effectively. We did work hard, I think, on relationship with equipment manufacturers at the time.
Well, still a big thing,
which were not all that good in the 80s. In the 90s, and we got that on a more even keel. There was always the issue with membership of the club. And
you kind of had to separate the commercial side of the R&A, what is now the R&A and the Royal and Ancient Golf Club are two kind of separate.
Yes. That's your time. Prior to 2004, the Royal and Ancient Golf Club did everything that the R&A does. Yeah. It was a members club. It ran the championships. It did the governance of the game, the rules, the amateur status, the equipment standards, of course, and so on. But we split that in 2004 into the members club on the one hand and all of the other R&A activities on the other into a corporate structure.
How easy was that to do legally?
It was complicated. We had to have quite a bit of legal advice, but it wasn't a problem, and it wasn't sharp practice in any way, shape, or form.
In one way, you would think it would be quite straightforward, but legal things never are.
And it made a lot of sense because it allowed the R&A's external activities to be more transparent than perhaps a members club would want to be, and we thought that was important. There were certain financial efficiencies out of it, although that wasn't a major motivation. And it allowed us to tap into perhaps some external talent that, previously everything was done by the members, and still the vast majority of the work is. And that's good because the membership supplies people for R&A boards and committees that companies would give their right arms for. And it's a strong organisation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge now compared with, I can remember, this is how old I am now, I can remember playing in the amateur here in the 80s. Early 80s, and it was, I know this is not politically correct anymore, but I can't remember his name. George was his first name, but Pegleg was his nickname.
Oh, yes.
And he drove around in a little mini moke.
Yep.
And he was the staff. That was him, because I can remember playing here at St Andrews and winning a game at the 21st or whatever it was. And we were the last game on the course late in the evening, and he drove us back in because we were the only ones left. And that was, I wish I could remember his second name, but little guy, lovely guy.
I never met him, but he's legend in the RNA.
Yeah. But he was it. He did everything back then.
Well, I remember my first week at the RNA was at the Amateur Championship at Royal County Down in 1999. And one of my jobs was to drive Graham Storm and his mum back to the clubhouse after he won the championship. Yeah. And that was my first week on the payroll.
Mm-hmm. The 99 was a slightly more than controversial year, given where the Open was, and the course that was before your time, though, wasn't it?
Fortunately, I was on training that time. I was still under Sir Michael, and Hugh Campbell was the chairman of the championship committee. I remember, and. Yeah, that was good training for me, but it made me absolutely sure that I spent all the time that was needed at an open venue to be sure everything was just so.
I take it changed quite markedly the following year, how, the implementation of the setup and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I don't want to criticise anyone, but it did seem to get away from us a bit, didn't it?
Well, yes.
Although a memorable Open.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Paul Laurie I'm sure he looks back on it with great fondness.
Yes.
Yeah. Although my lasting memory of it is watching Greg Norman, about a foot off the fairway
on 17,
was blooded swing, and he moved it about 6 inches or whatever.
Yes. Well. Oh, he won his couple of Opens.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did all right. Maybe we'll get to him later on. But so, what were the biggest challenges then? Again, is it the distance issue? Would that be fair to say?
Well, you certainly thought it was. Well, judging by your
I have to say to the
journalism.
I have to say to the listeners on this that you and I did butt heads on this a few times over the years. Yeah.
Yeah. The issue of equipment in golf is an ongoing issue. It's one that the RNA and the USGA are constantly monitoring and looking at, I know. It's in other people's hands now, and I wish them very well. It's not an easy subject, because it's that balance between should we all play the same game or should we not, and so on. And I don't really want to comment on it. I just wish everyone who's having to deal with it now well, and they'll deserve our strong support wherever it ends up, because it's not an easy subject.
No, and I'm not going to let you off just that easily, but because I could never understand why it was that difficult. That you guys were making the rules, and the game was at the top level was kind of the biggest victims I always thought were the golf courses. The one that we're looking out at here, we're actually in the Old Course Hotel, looking out over the road hole at the moment, which is the best view I've ever had doing one of these podcasts, by the way. But I could never get my head round why you didn't just do it.
Well, because there's many, you're being very single issue about this, and there's a lot of issues involved. The industries in golf employ lots and lots of people. There's lots and lots of people play the game who have their views about equipment, and then there's game at the pro level. I don't subscribe, by the way, to this thing that you hear from a lot of people, well, the pros are playing a different game. They're not. They're playing the same game, but better.
Yeah, see,
it's the same.
I'm of the view that the game that they play has never been more different from the one that you and I play. And we've created that by not doing anything about the equipment.
Well, everyone thinks, it's funny, isn't it? Everyone, if you look back in history, thinks that golf should be played as it was played in their time. We never heard Bobby Jones say, I should really be playing with old Tom Morris's equipment. And we never heard Jack Nicklaus say, I should be playing with Bobby Jones' equipment. And we're not hearing Rory McIlroy say, I should be playing with Jack Nicklaus's equipment. Everyone thinks that golf should be played as it was played in their time. And they can't all be right or all be wrong.
But do you not join with me in lamenting the, not quite demise of some of the great courses, but the way that they're played? I mean, I wrote a piece in the wake of the Open here last year saying, can we have our old course back, please? Because they're some of the pin positions were borderline outrageous. And that's the only way that they can keep the scores even semi-sane. I would argue. And I know you think I'm kind of extreme
Well,
on
you know,
this,
if you think about the old course and how these top pros drive the ball now, on a flat, calm day, it's probably a par 67 or 68 for them because they can drive a number of greens. And so, therefore, level par is actually the winning score.
Yeah, but par's just a number. I mean,
that's...
It's the way they're playing the holes that I find offensive.
Well, I still think the best players are winning the tournaments.
Well, that might be so, but it's just the way that it's done.
And, they're hitting more wedges and less 2-irons, but boy,
the last hole,
they can still hit a 2-iron.
The last hole's a long par 3 now. Come on.
Well, I confess I remember coming here in my first round here with a persimmon driver knocking it on there.
Really? Yeah. Oh, well, you must have a better player than me then.
It's been around for a long time, but, you look at the average score on that hole on an Open Championship, it's not as low as most people would think.
No, but they've only got one place they can stick the pin. And a lot of that's one of the great strategic holes. I always argued that the great strategy of that hole was where your tee shot was in relation to the valley and the pin. Mm-hmm. Now that's been completely lost, I would argue, almost on that hole.
Well, you're being single issue again.
Yeah, I know, but I like single.
Great enthusiasm.
Well, I had a long discussion once with on the record with Wally Uline at the height of all this, who you'll know well, obviously. And he, very clever man, and argued his case brilliantly, but I didn't agree with anything he said.
No, well, I think it was probably mutual then, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure it was, yeah. But it was a good, we didn't fall out or anything, but...
No, Wally's a tremendous student of the history of the game, and he's studied it at great length. We actually had him come and talk at one of the international golf conferences in my time at the R&A about... the history of equipment and all of that. And he was excellent, absolutely.
Yeah, he's obviously a highly intelligent man. I mean, right. I was slightly worried about taking him on, in a debate, but, I had my view and he had his, and we left it at that. Mm. So
we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, so anyway, you would say that was the most difficult issue of your time, was it?
It was certainly the...
apart from the women members.
The ongoing issue that was around for a long time. And... it's good to see. The game is still thriving quite well, isn't it? And but as I say, it's in other people's hands now. Yeah.
So, what was the most fun part of being the chief executive?
I think running championships and being part of that.
See, I would have thought that part of it, or one of the things, would be you're lucky to have the exposure that you would have with the top players.
Yeah, and that's where I'm
you'd be able to go and talk to them on a level that and they would speak to you in a way that they would never speak to someone like me.
True. I was determined to meet the top players, and one of the techniques we had was any extra tickets for the players' family marquee at the Open was kept in my office drawer at the Open, so they had to come in and ask for them. Right. And that was a great way of meeting people. How many aunts have you got this year, Sergio, and things like that. So, and it was a great way to do that. And I was blessed really that they were prepared to talk to me in private about many of the issues in golf of the day, and that was great.
Did they influence your thinking?
Some of them, yes, always. And what you couldn't find was unanimity of view about very much, to be honest, which is interesting. But, golf people in general are great to be around and great to work with and work for. There's always the odd exception, I suppose, but by and large it's been great. And I enjoyed my relationship with all of these people.
Who impressed you the most?
What, as a player?
Well, I'm sure that you'd come up with the same names that everyone else would, but as a guy, as a human being.
No, I'm not going to pick individuals.
Because you always say you should never meet your heroes. I'm sure that was true in some cases, but not in others.
Yeah,
certainly in my experience of dealing with these people.
I don't think I've been seriously disappointed by anyone, to be honest. Yeah. And of course, the dominant golfer, Tiger Woods, was in his pomp in my time, and that was a great privilege.
Yeah. What I don't give away too many confidences here, but what impressed you the most about Tiger?
Oh, his mental strength. Right. What he had to shut out was far more than other players had to shut out in order to play well, and
Yeah, he was the first golfer that
he could do
probably
that.
had ever been the most famous sportsman on the planet. And it'll be a long time before another golfer attains that.
Yes, I suppose so. And even today, he moves the needle, doesn't he?
Oh,
and
doesn't even have to play.
Not even able to play very much, sadly. Yeah. But I hope we see a bit more of him and see him play again. That would be a thrill. And he was here in July at St Andrews, and I'm sure he'll be at next year's Open. At least I hope he will. And it would be good to see him have one last, more than one last run at it.
Every golf fan would agree with that.
I think his last win at the Masters was quite extraordinary.
It was. Yeah, I was there for that, luckily enough.
That was just terrific.
Yeah, I was going to. You've sort of segued nicely there. I was going to ask you about the Masters. I know you've been a rules official there. You've been the lone figure sitting in the trees left of the 13th and things like that. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, the Masters, and I'm not sure if they'll have changed it since COVID, etc., was quite a heavily refereed event. There were 2 or 3 referees on most of the holes, and I think I did it about 18 or 19 times, which was good, and a wonderful way to watch the tournament.
I'll bet, yeah.
And see all the players come through. I think my favourite, my main Masters story was being the closest person in the world to Tiger when he chipped in. The Nike swoosh fell in the hole. And that was quite a moment. I've told this many times. There's a picture behind the desk of the whole world going mad, except one person, dead calm. I was the referee on that. And he sent us, you get a little excitement in your life.
Yeah.
All that stuff. But up close is a very special way to watch an event.
And what are some of the rulings that you had to give? What sticks out?
Well, you can go a long, long time and not have a ruling to make. Years, actually.
Sure.
The Masters. But the most technically difficult one, and I sadly can't remember who the player was. It's an American player who hit it through the back of 12, up on the hill, in an azalea bush, plugged in the ground. Uh-huh. And we ascertained that he could actually play a shot at this, and therefore he was allowed a drop because of the embedded ball. And he had to drop it under the rules at that time as close to the pitch mark as he possibly could, and the ball shouldn't end up near the hole. Yeah. But I pointed out to him that if he dropped it, he was going to have to drop it through the bush. And therefore the first part of the course that the ball hit would be part of the bush, one of the branches. And that if it rolled nearer the hole twice, he was going to have to place it high in the bush.
In mid-air, sort of.
And it was a miracle that I remembered this. And he said, I don't care. And he dropped the ball, and it goes ga-dunk, ga-dunk, ga-dunk through the branches. Landed, and we're talking about on a very steep slope here, landed about an inch from his pitch mark, and it stopped.
Wow.
And there he chipped it down into the bunker and got up and down for 4. And that could have been a ruling I could easily have got wrong. But,
Well, I remember, you may or may not remember this, but I remember you laughing at me. I went and did the referees' rules up at the Fairmont a few years ago now. The angle from the story that I was doing was that I did no preparation for it. And the angle was, how would somebody like me who'd played golf his whole life get on in something like that? And I remember asking John Paramore, who was the European Tour referee famously, he was there as part of the lecturing part of it. And I said to him, how am I going to do here? And he said, well, either you'll just pass or you'll just fail. And he was right. I failed by 1, which I was slightly annoyed because the first part of it was you had to name the rule number.
Yes.
And there was 10 of them. And if you told me, I would at least sorted up on that a little bit. And I just guessed that I got 1 out of 10.
Yes.
So I was a wee bit,
Well, the reason for that, of course, is that you're able to find the rule in the book when under pressure.
I get that. But that's the one thing that they should have told me beforehand, yes.
That's not always easy. I did give a wrong ruling once.
Tell us more.
In a tournament. Well, very nearly did. It was in the Players' Championship. Right. And I think it was Paul Stankowski, if you remember him. Hooked it off would it be the 14th tee? Is that the one with the one after the par 3 with the water on the left?
Yes, there's water all the way up the left-hand side.
And he hooked it into this lake and called me over, and he said, in dropping the ball, do I have to take complete relief? And I said, what do you mean? Well, if I drop it here, but I'm still standing inside the red line, is that all right? And I said, yes, that's okay. And he said, and there was a bunker very near, within the 2 club lengths, within the 2 club lengths. And he said, can I drop it in the bunker? And I said, yes. And then he said, what happens if I drop it in the grass and it rolls into the bunker? And as I was answering him, I knew I was wrong. Right. And I could not believe that the rules could possibly allow him to drop it in the bunker, but not have a ball roll into the bunker, which was the rule.
Yeah.
And I said, that would be fine too, knowing. Why did I say that was wrong? But fortunately, he dropped it on the first option and it didn't come in. Okay. But I think that's the closest I've got to a particularly nasty one.
Yeah, I mean, they've simplified them a lot recently. The one that always confused me was whether I could get 1 club or 2 clubs.
Yep.
You know, that there was too much variation in that, I always thought. Well, that always led to confusion.
Almost in general, I think 1 club was no penalty and 2 clubs you were in for a penalty shot.
Yeah.
That was roughly what it was. But yes, they have simplified them and they've gone in well. I still struggle to bend over and drop a ball from knee height, but that seems to be all right.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
It's not terribly elegant, is it?
Yeah, well, I'm going to test you on that. Here's the one time I got, and I've maybe told this before somewhere, but I got really shafted, I felt, by the rules. And you be the referee in this. I'm playing with a guy called Fraser Dunsmore, the never-to-be-forgotten Fraser Dunsmore, in the Tennant Cup at Killamont near Glasgow. We both drive into the left rough on this par 4, looking for the balls. He found mine, and he hits it on the green. We're looking for mine, can't find it. Back to the tee. 3 off. You can see where this is heading, can't you? 3 off the tee, 4 onto the green. I'm just marking my ball, and he goes, "Oh no, I've played your ball."
Oh, blimey.
What would you have done?
I'm delighted to say I've retired, John.
Yeah, because I got no sympathy.
Sure, there must be a decision about that in the old decisions book.
Well, I felt a bit hard done by it because he said, "Well, no, you've hit your second ball into play. That was, that's it."
Yes, well,
I said, "Well, yeah, but I mean, how could I possibly find mine? It was on the green, So I felt a bit hard done by there.
It was never meant to be fair, was it?
No, true enough.
Got to take these ups and downs.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to go too far away from your playing. What was the best thing you ever did apart from the Warwickshire Open?
Well, the best round I was ever involved in was actually in the Midland Scratch foursomes for the Finney Shield at the course called Harborne. Remember Peter Butler?
Yes,
in South Birmingham.
He died recently, yeah.
Yes, he did, certainly. In 1973, I think it was. And my partner, Bruce Strether, and I, it was a very windy day, shot 73 in the morning. And we won the event with 136. We did 63 in the afternoon in a foursome medal. And I remember the last hole was 190 yards. And it was so windy, I hit driver. So 63 in a big wind, so even though it was a foursome. Very good. That was the best round of golf I was ever involved in.
Right.
And it wasn't in my best putting days, but fortunately I hit all the iron shots and Bruce hit all the putts. So that worked.
And your worst moments?
Oh, my worst moment, I think, was in the Oxford v Cambridge match at, you can tell I'm instantly on this.
Yes.
At Royal Porth
it's still with you, this one, yeah.
In March of 68. And I'm playing in the foursomes with Peter Moody. I don't know if you remember him.
Yes, he was a terrific player, yeah.
Terrific player. He won the Brabazon, lost in the final of the amateur.
And famously never played in the Walker Cup.
And was not picked for the Walker Cup and never played golf again. And he was the best man at my wedding and all that kind of thing. But we're plodding away. We're 5 up at lunch, and I get the shanks in the afternoon, and we come to the last hole, all square.
Yeah.
Moody hits the fairway. Oxford first. Oxford.
This is Porthcawl.
Porthcawl. Right. And the pin's at the front, and it's straight into the wind off the sea.
Yeah.
Oxford hook it in the left rough. Moody hits the fairway. Oxford can get a wood to it and hit it to the back of the green. It's a long way from the hole. And I hit a 3-iron to 10 feet.
Uh-huh.
And Oxford putt up about 3 feet left of the hole. Good putt from where they were. And I suggest to Moody that lagging might be the thing. But he hit it 2 foot 11 3/4 inches past, and the rest is history. Yeah. And it took, I think that's why my putting never recovered, to be honest, until I got over that. Well, I haven't really yet.
I have a kind of similar type story. Talking to the British youths earlier, I nearly won the British Youths in 1981. I lost by a shot to Torbjorn Antevik.
All right. Where was that?
At West Lancs.
Right. Great call.
But earlier that week, I played for Great Britain Youths against the continent of Europe on the most horrific day. Well, I mean, it was blowing a gale and sideways rain, and it was a bit of a nonsense, to be honest. And I was playing against the Spanish lad who's Vidaor, whose brother works for the European Tour.
Yeah.
We got to, I remember holding about
Miguel, is it? Miguel?
Yeah, it's Alfonso was his brother. And I hold about a 10-foot putt on about the 11th hole to square the match. And we just kind of looked at each other and went, just call this a half. Which is, looking back, is not the thing to do, but it was just horrific. So we muddle along, we play a few holes, and we come round the corner, I think, at West Lancs, the 16th. Mm-hmm. And we suddenly were confronted by this huge crowd. We're the last game on the course, and it's all down to us. Oh, I've got to get half to win the thing for GB and I. So we contrive halves at 16 and 17, and we get to the last hole, and he putts up to something, about a yard, and I put up to just inside him. And we're all square, obviously, and I need the half to win the thing. And of course he knocks it in. And I've got this downhill left to right 2.5 footer thing, I hold it, thank God.
Oh my goodness.
But I tell you, I made the biggest mistake I made was years after that, telling Michael Benalik that story, who was there watching.
Right.
Oh, he wasn't impressed. Wasn't impressed with me at all.
No.
You should never have done that,
No,
he said.
quite right.
Quite
right. Now, I remember one other team thing that I was a schoolboy at the time, obviously, playing the Carris Trophy.
Yes.
Which in those days was always played at Moore Park.
That was like the English boys' stroke play, really, in effect, wasn't it?
Yes, it probably was.
Yeah.
And but you could enter it as a Scot.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Obviously.
And, obviously. And the format was that there was a match, the boys against the girls, I think, on the Tuesday. The trophy, it's 36-hole trophy on the Wednesday, and then a match boys team against the pros on the Thursday. Right. And I wasn't in the team to play the girls, but I came third, I think, in the Carris Trophy, and was picked for the match against the pros the next day. Okay. So I went to bed all excited about this, got up in the morning, opened the curtains, 2 feet of snow. We played them at snooker, but didn't win that. And Bernard Gallagher was in that boys team, I remember.
Okay.
So that was an exciting potential match that was never played.
Right, moving right along. Your time at the RNA came to an end of your own volition, I think. What was behind your decision to step down?
Well, when I took the job, I was, let me think now, I was 51 years old, I think, and the contract said retirement age was 60. And I eventually retired when I was 67.
Yeah.
So went on a fairly full shift, I think. And I just felt that the time had come. You know when you let a couple of things go by you that 10 years earlier you wouldn't have let go by you.
Tell us more about that.
No, I can't think what they were, really. They're trivial things.
Yeah.
And you think, I felt... There is a cycle to the RNA work every year, the championships, it's the same. And I felt it was probably the right time to let someone else have a go. And I picked my date and had a very nice send-off, and that was it.
Do you miss anything about it? Apart from the view from your office?
Missed the car park space too.
Aye, yeah.
But no, I miss the people in golf, which I'm still involved with to some degree, but not to the same degree. And... it was a very, very satisfying, but it was a real 24/7 job, and
it would be. Yeah.
It was tiring and so on, and you're getting a bit older. And all of that.
How different was it from your business career? I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, a lot of it's the same. It's people, it's money, it's making profits, and all the rest of it. But the big difference in industry is that people really want to bite your legs off and get one up on you here and there.
Yeah, we're all on the same team in a way.
But in golf, it was everyone wanted me to do well. And the prime motivation of the job was not to let golf people down. That was when I always had a pretend thing up on the ceiling in the office, which was, is this good for golf? Whatever subject I was doing, not is this good for the RNA, is this good for golf? And I tried to stick to that, to be honest. because, golf people are great to work with and for. And going back to your first question, what does golf mean to you? I think golf people means most of all.
Yeah. So you've no regrets about when you stopped?
No, I mean, I'd like to have gone on forever, of course, but that would not have been good for golf. So,
No, well, yeah, there's as you say, there's
a time. You know your time.
Yeah. And since then, you've had a variety of roles. I mean, you haven't disappeared by any means.
No, I was asked to help out with some things in Dubai,
Yes.
golf, and we the Falcon Golf, as I was chairman of, actually ran the Omega Dubai Desert Classic, as it was called at the time, and that was enjoyable. I enjoyed the can-do attitude in Dubai. I didn't live out there. I travelled out there for a few weeks each year. Carried on with the Olympic role for a while, the president of the International Golf Federation, which I've retired from, and Annika Solenstam now does.
I must admit, I had misgivings about that at the time and getting involved with the golf. I was the thing that kind of convinced me that ultimately it would be a good thing was the money that would go to emerging golf countries, if you can call them that.
Yes,
because they were Olympic. Because it was an
lot
Olympic
of people
sport.
in golf said, "Oh, we've got our major championships, for men and women. That's the pinnacle of golf." But then, so many of the smaller countries in the game were saying, "Look, if golf was an Olympic sport, it would get so much more recognition in our country, so much more government and financial support, that it became a sort of grow the game imperative, really." And I think, now that it's in and established itself in the Olympic movement, in the Olympic Games, it's a success story. I think the players more and more want to play.
The format gets a bit of criticism, or the lack of imagination, shall we say?
Well, the IOC, if you're back trying to, and it was 2009 in Copenhagen that we got golf in. And what you don't want to do when you're subject to a vote is do something silly. And it was made very clear by the IOC that it wanted the Olympic competition to represent what golf was. It wasn't to be some fancy new format that's only ever played in the Olympics.
Right.
What other sport does that? None.
Yeah, true enough.
None.
Yeah.
Swimming.
Yeah, that's right.
Athletics is athletics.
Yeah.
Eventing's eventing, and so on. Yeah. And so that was very important. The other question I'm often asked is, well, shouldn't it have been for amateurs?
It's exactly what I was just going to say.
Well, what Olympic sports other than boxing are for amateurs? Is Usain Bolt an amateur?
Yeah. That ship had sailed, hasn't it?
That ship had long since sailed, and the IOC made it clear they wanted the best players in the world, be it Tiger Woods or whoever was available at the time.
How important was the presence of Tiger, in getting golf into the Olympics?
You mean his existence?
Yes.
Oh, I think it was. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Of course, he didn't get to play, unfortunately.
No. Because as we said earlier, I mean, most famous sportsman on the planet was a golfer.
It was a huge thing.
Yeah.
And we went along to that IOC session, as they're called, in Copenhagen, and we took Padraig Harrington, Suzanne Petterson, Matteo Manacero, and Michelle Wee. Were our
some good talkers there.
Ambassadors.
In fact, you only need Padraig, really.
And they each had a piece to do, and I remember we had a consultant helping us with how to best present ourselves. And we'd sorted it all out. And then quite late the evening before the presentation, he said, I think we should do the first bit of this in French. There are two official Olympic languages, English and French. Well, Ty Votor was down to do the first bit, and he went up the corridor. I couldn't see him for dust.
Yeah.
And I get the job of doing the first bit in French, which we stumbled through and got through that.
Did you have any expertise in that area?
No, I had a very poor O-level grade, but I got quite a lot of coaching the night from Johnny Storjahan the night before, from the European Golf Association, as he was. And the two really impressive things to me were very interesting. Was Matteo Manacero, who just won the amateur championship and was, I think, 16 years old at the time, gave his piece brilliantly. And if in his second language, in English, that was extraordinary. And I remember the consultant gave Michelle Wee her piece, which was a full one side, and she looked at it, put it down, and she was word perfect in it. She must have had some sort of
she was
photographic memory or something.
Pretty intelligent. She went to Stanford.
She was
got a degree,
she was great. She was absolutely great throughout. As was Podrick, as was Suzanne.
Well, Podrick could talk for for Ireland,
and we got in, and there it was good. The Olympic movement worked 7 years in advance,
right?
And the strange thing about it was that Rio had been voted in as the host city before. A few days before, golf and rugby were voted in as new sports.
Right. So you had to come up with a golf course.
Rio's bid didn't include anything about golf.
Right, yeah.
So there were only two or three courses in Rio, none of which, I'm afraid, would have taxed the modern professional. So we had to build a course, appoint an architect, find the land, get the ecology sorted out, get the permission sorted out, chose Gil Hance as the architect. And he put together a wonderful course, which I'm delighted to say I've heard just recently is still operational.
Yeah.
And it's probably the only Olympic venue in Rio that is.
Well, you hear stories. I mean, Sydney being a classic example where the facilities are just lying dormant, basically. And obviously Sarajevo was war and all the rest of it. So it's easier said than done.
It is. And I think the golfers, and I talked to Justin Rose about this, who if you remember, won the men's gold medal. And by the way, he became a fantastic ambassador. I did a press conference with him the morning after.
Everywhere, yeah. So.
And it was the easiest press conference I'd ever done because I was sitting out the front. No one asked me anything, just Justin. Yeah. And every question that was asked, I thought, well, the perfect answer is... And Justin gave it or better. He was a terrific ambassador for the game. But we had a great event down there, a great podium of medalists, I think it's been one of the things I look back on with the most pride if I dare do that.
You touched on it there, and I was going to ask you about this. The thing about the R&A job compared with, or the biggest difference between the R&A job that you moved into in your previous working life would be dealing with people like me, the media. Was that difficult for you, or was that an adjustment?
I don't think I found it difficult. I always enjoyed it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I used to get pretty...
I didn't get that impression on occasion, Peter.
Well, I never thought that the media quite... Did their best for golf on quite a lot of occasions.
Well, I remember you've been really pissed off, not specifically with me really, but the newspaper Scotland on Sunday that I wrote for.
Right.
I did a column for a long time, and there was a picture that accompanied a story I'd done about Royal St George's, I think, and they'd superimposed a sign.
Oh yes. Women keep off the grass.
Something like that, yeah.
Which didn't exist.
Which had nothing to do with me,
and
of
it was
course,
a computer in hand. Well, that's what all the journalists say.
Well,
we don't
true.
do the headlines. We don't do the pictures. Well, who does?
Well, exactly. Some guy in a
desk.
So,
is it good journalism to create a picture of something that doesn't exist to make a point?
I'd have been with you on that. I mean, I knew nothing about it.
I thought it was as shoddy as could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember that. Now I had forgotten it, but now I remember it.
Yes. What were your most difficult moments with people like me then, or was it just me? Well,
you were one of the worst, that's for sure.
Lawrence Donegan, I think, was another one.
Oh, he was a shocker.
Yeah. he'll laugh at that.
But the repartee was good, and
I mean, I always took the view that there was a bit of there's an inherent adversarial quality to the establishment in any walk of life and the journalist.
Yeah.
But in golf, what always saved me, if you can put it that way, with people like yourself and Martin Slumbers now and this time, is that you kind of knew that we were all on the same team.
Yeah, I think so.
I wanted what was best for golf just as much as you did.
Yes. Yeah. You get this stereotyping of the establishment in golf. The old,
the R&A epitomised
the old buffers in blazers. Now, in any other walk of life, you'd have been taken to court for ageism. Never mind sexism or anything.
Yeah.
And I used to think, gosh, surely you can do better than this.
Yeah, but some of it was, tongue in cheek and a bit,
Yeah, but it got a bit repetitive. Your tongue must have got stuck in your cheek.
And you've moved on a bit. The R&A specifically, you've moved on a lot from that. Certainly the organisation, the R&A.
Oh, yes, it has.
Was that one of the?
Quickly.
Is that something that you made a priority? Was the image changing the image of the organisation?
No, not really. I didn't think the RNA had much to apologise for.
No, I didn't mean apologise.
No, but or needed it.
Because the wider perception was not the reality.
No, well, the wider perception, of course.
But it becomes the reality, unfortunately.
Because of what the media do.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything the RNA did. It was the way the media wrote it up.
I think we were all in this together.
And so on. So, yeah, things have moved on. Of course they have. And all the better for it, I'm sure.
Do you think... I'm sure I think everybody's agreed that the women membership thing was something that had to be fixed. Is that...
Yes, I think it certainly did in the RNA's case, given that its role in the governance of the game and so on. And it's good to see now the merger with the Ladies Golf Union, the LGU, which was just about finished in my time.
Yeah, they're now running a lot of the women's events.
And there's a huge number of women's events being run, in fact, more women's than men's. And that's put a huge workload into the organisation that didn't exist in my time.
Mm-hmm. Was that something that it became a priority, or was it forced on you to get it done? Or
no, it was always a matter for the Ladies Golf Union. Right. We made it clear to them very early.
No, I meant the membership of the.
Well, let me finish the LGU point first. We made it very clear that we would be amenable to talking, and at their pace, we were never going to muscle in. If they didn't want to.
No, but it had to be up to them, yeah.
And in the same way, the lady members issue, women members issue, was a matter for the members of the club. It wasn't a matter for me or anything like that. And the members of the club overwhelmingly voted it in. When was it? 2015, I think.
Yeah.
Or 14.
Yeah, I think you have the same view that I took the view that I don't have a problem with single-sex clubs at all. But the RNA couldn't be like that because of the governance.
I think that's right. I was listening to a few months ago now, I guess, one of those programs that Billy Connolly did, Looking Back, and he was talking about the bars and the pubs in Glasgow around the docks, and the shipbuilding areas, and how the old boys were in there telling their stories and so on. Very men-only environment.
Often off the night shift.
Yes, very men-only environment. And he said that's all gone now, of course, and he said, I suppose I mourn its passing. And, but just to an extent. And to an extent, I do too. But things have moved on, and therefore the better.
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to bounce around a little bit as we're getting towards the end of this, but what would be your favourite Open of your time?
I think my first one, 2020.
Right.
And it was because of the newness of it. I loved them all, don't get me wrong. I didn't have one I didn't like in any shape or form. But
a lot of pressure on you, though.
A lot of pressure. We introduced the 4-hole past champions event, and there were quite a lot of doubters about that.
No, that's terrific.
How many champions would actually come and play? And I eventually got everyone to agree that we'd try it, and we got a good turnout. Yeah. And beautiful weather, and 4 holes of 40,000 people watching it, these last 4 holes, which was fabulous. And it's a tradition now at St Andrews that happens. And then we had the championship, Tiger in his pomp, and he won. And it was a good start.
He's probably as close to unbeatable as anyone's ever been in golf. I mean, Nicholas would come close, and maybe Jones.
Well, golf is a very difficult game to dominate because the nature of the sport. It's not like a 100-meter swim or 200-meter swim where the fastest swimmer 9 times out of 10 wins. Golf isn't like that, and and that's what makes Tiger so extraordinary. His win percentage was something like 30%. Wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And that's extraordinary in golf. And he was the man, wasn't he? And he set the bar very high, and people are now getting up there and passing.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people who do what I do for a living, they start sentences with the exception of Tiger Woods, comma.
Yes. Oh, I know. And he was just fantastic, really. And I remember at the prize giving, the captain of the club gives the claret jug out, and I announce it. Yeah. And he stood up to make his speech, and he said what a great thrill it was to have won the British Open. And then he looked across at me and said, the Open Championship.
Yes.
And I thought, you're a classy guy.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that the official films for the Open had the British Open on it. I know. Yeah. Was that part of your time that you wanted to shift that away?
No, it was on the go. I just continued it.
Right.
One of the great pressures of the Open, of course, is the engraver. And,
Gary Harvey, yeah.
And I've told this story before. When I came to the R&A, his father, Alex, was doing the engraving.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, but way back in the day, it was the champion's responsibility to bring the claret jug back engraved.
Right, okay.
And when Fred Daly won...
Yeah, there's a spelling mistake.
I think that was 47.
Yeah.
He brought it back with Holy Lake on and not Hoylake, and that's still on there. Mm-hmm. And then DiVincenzo in 68, having won in 67, brought it back. He'd forgotten to have it engraved.
Right.
So that was the first time an engraver was called in at the Rush.
Yeah.
And it was about 4 years later the engraver became a permanent feature, and that was Alex Harvey.
Yeah.
And when I got to the R&A, Alex was getting quite elderly, and I thought, crikey, this is a bit tense, this. What if Alex becomes unwell or something? So I actually identified a stand-in in case I needed one. And I got back to the R&A, and there's Alex in the trophy room engraving the club's trophies with someone else. And I said, who's that? Well, that's his son, Gary.
Former boys champion.
Gary is a professional golfer. Got into the final of the boys' championship twice and won it. I think Howard Clark beat him once, and then he won it the next year. And he engraved his own trophy as a boys' champion. Yeah. And he's been doing it for quite some years now. And what a lovely family. And it's a high-pressure moment, that, because there's a lot of pressure to get the closing ceremony started for TV and so on. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to take a chance.
So you want Ernie Els to win rather than Louis Oosthuizen?
Well, there's that, and he can do so much. He can put strokes in, and he can put the venue in, but not the name and not the number. I mean, you can take a flyer with a name. Mm-hmm. You know, if Tiger's 5-6 ahead playing the last, and then you think, God, what if there's a a scorecard infringement or something? No, you better not do it. So you get to know each other pretty well, the secretary and the engraver.
I was going to bring this up, and you've segued into it nicely again. I would imagine that almost the lowest moment would be Mark Rowe at Royal St. George's.
Oh, that was a shocker.
So that's the sort of thing that people who don't know golf, they look at it and they go, what?
How can that possibly happen? We just watched it on TV, etc., etc. And David Pepper, I remember, was chairman of the championship committee. And he went to do the written media, and I did TV straight after it, and it was horrid. There's a few things I could say in the defence of the scoring staff, by the way, which I'm not going to say.
Oh, right.
But it wasn't good, and the rules were later changed to make that not happen again.
Yeah, well, I mean, the most ludicrous aspect of it, and you can imagine what side I took on this, but the most ludicrous thing was that Parnevik and Rowe, who were playing together that day, I think Parnevik beat Rowe on one hole of the 18, and had they tied that hole, Mark Rowe could have played the next day with Jesper Parnevik's score.
I know.
That's where you really lost me at that point.
I know. You know. But of course, that's what happens in the monthly medal.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it has been recognised, it has been modified.
Was there never was there a temptation to go, we don't have to tell anybody about this?
I forget exactly how it came out.
Because you could have done that. Nobody would ever have known.
Yes, they would.
You think?
I'd have known.
You think we'd have found out?
I'd have known.
Well, but that, you wouldn't go to tell. You weren't going to tell anybody.
When have you ever heard of something like that staying quiet?
I suppose.
Not ever.
Yeah. I mean,
it was the right thing to do to make it public. But
see, I've never had any patience for stuff like that. It just fix it. It was the same with DiVincenzo. I wrote a column which Bob Golby came looking for me at the Masters years ago, saying that Bob Golby in '68, when DiVincenzo put down, or Tommy Aaron wrote down 4 instead of 3 on DiVincenzo's card, and he signed it and got the 4 instead of the 3 and didn't get in the playoff. I wrote that I thought Bob Golby had missed the opportunity of a lifetime, because if he just said, no, I'm not having that, there was 2 possibilities the next day. He was either going to be the Masters champion and the Sportsman of the Century, or just the Sportsman of the Century.
Or possibly disqualified for not taking part in the playoff.
But, where were they going to go if he'd said, no, I'm not having that? As I say, I've got no patience for that stuff. Because it was on telly, for goodness sake.
Yes, well, you always have to be fair to the whole field.
Yeah, is there anybody in the field would have said, no, Matt Rowe can't have his 67?
Yeah, somebody would.
Oh, come on. You're talking about all these wonderful golf people.
Somebody who would have made a little less money if it had happened.
Well,
would have done.
Yeah, I suppose there is that. Yeah. So, anyway, you famously at that same Open, I've heard you tell this story. You had to wander out very early in the week and came across a young American player. Not different. Yeah, was that the same Open? Yeah, it was the same Open.
I think it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it must have been.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes.
By the name of Ben Curtis.
We're always down there a good week before the Open week, and the first player to pitch up was indeed Ben Curtis, with his wife Candace was her name. And in my wanderings round the course in the week prior to the championship, I came across him and we walked a few holes and got to know each other quite well. And blow me, he won it.
Yeah.
Extraordinary. He was a great amateur. I think he was the leading.
He was number one amateur
in the world, wasn't he?
I mean, he turned out to be. I mean, he played in Ryder Cups and won tournaments after that.
Yes, he did.
He was no dud.
I've rather lost track of him now. I'm not sure what he's doing.
He just retired.
Did he? Yeah. But lovely guy. And I played golf with him here at St Andrews, actually, a few months after his Open win. And it was quite extraordinary because even if he was only 6 inches off the green, he would hit a sandwich. He never thought, it was almost as if he didn't think it was allowed under the rules to putt.
That goes against every links.
And it didn't disadvantage him at all, because everyone I remember he hit stiff.
Yeah.
Extraordinary. But, a lovely guy. Nice
he
player.
was a quiet soul. Very well.
Yeah. There was a period when the person, I think 2 or 3 years in a row, the person I met first won the championship that week.
Really?
It didn't last. Yeah.
They should have come looking for you. Yeah. Peter, I want to finish up with, just because of where we are, I want to ask you about the tee at the 17th at the Road Hole.
Oh, yes.
Which was, I think, you're doing, or largely. Tell me the thinking behind that, on the hole that is, well, reportedly the hardest hole on the planet. Why did it need a tee further back?
We were seeing, as players undoubtedly were hitting the ball further, we were seeing the 17th being played with quite short irons with the approach shot to the second, which the 17th green is not designed to be. It's designed to be difficult, to not to be short, not to be long, not to be in the bunker. So I wanted to see, as did the championship committee, bigger clubs being hit in there. And we built a new tee, absolutely back in line with the previous Open tee, the medal tee, so that the line you had to hit was absolutely the same, and added 40 yards to the hole or something. And I think it's played well. The players have not.
You didn't see that as a kind of surrender in the distance battle?
No, no more than many other things, and people say, God, these courses have really been lengthened. Do you know when Sam Snead won the Open?
46.
In 46, this course was 6,950.
That'd be long.
And when Burton won in the 30s, it was 6,875.
Yeah, he was the longest reigning Open champion ever.
Yes. And, people think, and now it's being played at 7.4 or something. So it's only increased in length by 6%, for goodness sake. Mm-hmm. It's not life changing.
But that's only because that's as much as you could do.
Yes, but it's still how many you can get it round in, isn't it? And I think these courses, especially if there's a bit of breeze, which there often is, still provide a good test.
Yeah, well, I despair of this place. I just lament the way that they play it and the way that they should be playing it. Well, that's why I enjoy watching the women so much.
As I said, everyone thinks when they play it is the way golf should be played, I know. And you're doing it too.
Yeah, I know. But I'd have them back playing with Persimmon Woods as well, of course.
Well, and hickory shafts. And
not quite that. So.
Feathery balls.
Well, it'd be interesting to see it'd be interesting to see how they would get on.
Yeah, well, the guy who does that a lot, of course, is Sandy Lyle, isn't he? He plays a lot of hickory.
He's won the hickory thing.
And he's very good at it.
Yeah,
very good at it.
Yeah. I mean, I started with hickory clubs. I'm sure you did too, did you?
No.
No?
No. I had one or two, but mainly it was steel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started long before you.
Well, yeah. I mean, my club's first ones came out of my grandfather's shed. They were up in the roof.
Yeah. I mean, I remember my set I built up, and they weren't even matched, one club at a time, going to a second-hand shop in Bread Street in Edinburgh, which I'm sure no longer exists.
Right. Yeah.
I started my golf.
Was that when you were playing at Lothianburn?
Lothianburn, which sadly no longer exists.
I know. Yeah. Mind you, I'm not sure that piece of land was ever meant to be a golf course, was it?
Holy ground for me.
Well, yeah, next to the ski. For people who don't know, it's right next to a ski slope.
Well, I left Edinburgh the year before the ski slope opened.
Right.
And moved down south and joined Thorpe Hall when Michael Benalek was at the peak of his power.
Yes.
And down in Essex. So no one at school, at Westcliff High School, could understand a word I said. They called me Angus.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My last question is, I think people have asked me about this before, and did you go out and did you practice the champion golfer of the year, speech? I think call it that.
I think I probably rehearsed it while shaving.
Because Martin Slumbers admits to practicing.
No, does it? Yeah, I'm sure we all practice. But the big issue was, is it champion golfer for the year or of the year? And Michael Benalek, who I asked this question, said, it's of the year. So we played back all of his previous ones, and 50% were of and 50% were for. And we had a professor of English from Toronto University writing in about this, and he thought it should be of, and we decided it should be of. So I always said of, except 1 year early on. I think it was Duval's year. I think I said for there. But,
right.
It's
so
champion
even with all
the
that
year.
Practice.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, with a score of 279, the winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is John Huggan.
No, dream on. Anyway, that seems a perfect note to finish on. Peter, thank you for your time. It's been very enjoyable.
Thank you, John. Enjoyed it very much.
Some terrific banter there, I think you'll agree, from two men who clearly share a love of the game, though don't necessarily agree on everything about it. Well, it's been a bit of a festival of Huggan these past couple of weeks with his Masters coverage and now this interview with Peter Dawson, but we come back to Australia next week and another voice that'll be familiar to a certain generation of Australian golf fans. That's recently retired TV commentator Pat Welsh, next time on The Thing About Golf. Yeah, some terrific banter in there, I think you'll agree, from two men who clearly share a love for the game, though clearly also don't agree on everything about it. Well, it's been a bit of a festival of Huggan these past couple of weeks with his excellent Masters coverage and then this interview with Peter Dawson, but we come back to Australia next week and another voice that'll be familiar to a certain generation of Australian golf fans.
And the one that I often recall is Norman v. Faldo, and I think they were 1v2 in the world at Huntingdale. And you know how long and tough that first is at Huntingdale. The driver goes left or right. You're in car park on the right. You're in really tough trees on the left. Well, they were never a danger of hitting them in there because there were so many people.
That's recently retired TV commentator Pat Welsh, next time on The Thing About Golf.